Hello, everyone. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Thank you for joining me on this New Year's Eve. As you can see, some very wet weather heading into the New England states, the northeastern United States, the Ohio River Valley, all the way down through Indiana, and as far south as Nashville and Knoxville, Tennessee. This wet weather with some severe storm potential. There is some hail reports that have come out in the last couple of hours as well, is changing over to snow on the cold side of this system. As we go into the new year, we have this wave that will become snow. Lake effect snow warnings are in place in parts of New York State. We're going to go through all of this. This will be round one, and there's another smack coming from Mother Nature as we head in to the new year. Before the first week of the new year is all said and done, another wintry system could bring an ice storm as well as a potential for very heavy snow across much of the central and eastern United States. Let's get started with what's going on behind me right now as we take a look at the precision radar. Now, where you see the yellows and reds, that's some very heavy rain. Zooming into central parts of the state of, Maryland, as we go into Washington, D.C., a leading edge of severe thunderstorms with a warning down to the south of the D.C. metro area, Dale City and points south. This severe thunderstorm with the backward C shape here, that's called a bowing line segment. This bowing segment will have a wind potential with it. Anytime you see that backward C shape to the radar data, that is an indication of some very gusty straight line wind potential. This warning is in effect until 4:30 in the afternoon. That would be central time, so 5:30. So for the next little bit. Now we'll see if the warning does continue and get extended out. But again, the main threat is going to be gusty wind. There could be some pockets or isolated areas that get 1-inch diameter hail with that cluster of severe storms. It extends all the way down south of Fredericksburg and on towards Ashland, just north of Richmond, as we see this line of gusty storms. These storms on the south side of the storm will have hail potential to around nickel-sized or 0.88 inches in diameter as it moves off to the east. So if you are in Ashland in moments, this storm is going to be on your doorstep, and it is moving basically northeasterly at about 45 miles per hour. Again, 3/4 inch hail or so is going to be a possibility from this storm. Now, that's what's going on right now as we take a look just a little bit farther to the north. The history of this storm, by the way, we've had near 1-inch diameter hail reports as you look off to the east of Charlottesville, half-inch report there. A little bit farther to the west, a good old 1-inch diameter hail report here in the city of Arlington, as we went through the earlier hours this afternoon. So Washington, D.C., as we look into the eastern swing of the, western swing of the metro, we do definitely see a huge area of very heavy rain working its way eastward. So brace for the severe weather potential. Now, this does go all the way up into Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania, seeing strong thunderstorms, but the risk of severe here a little bit lower. Good old-fashioned, very heavy rain moving into State College right now as we go in and take a look at the Pennsylvania State University. Now, up in the mitten of Michigan, we do have some snow showers starting to pull in on the backside of the system where temperatures are turning colder. Quieter weather for most of the nation as we look elsewhere, but that's not really what's going on because temperatures really also the story of the day. As we take a look at those across the nation, here we go. What you're going to see is some sub-zero air pooling up near Saskatoon and Winnipeg, heading its way into North Dakota as we head into the overnight hours. Minneapolis is going to get cold, and this cold air will bring wave one of mighty chilly air. Look at temperatures down in Oklahoma City, 45 there. We're expecting freezing conditions across much of the nation as we go through the next 24 hours, and that freezing condition is going to continue into the better part of the new year. Now, let's take a look at the forecast for this round one of snow, and let's take a look at the forecast as we move forward with regards to the system as it makes its way, the second system that makes its way in as we go through the first full week of the new year. This live update bringing you the latest model information. We're going to compare a model or two and show you that this storm system in the first week of the new year is legit. Both models have some significant similarities to their outlooks with regards to the weather. Now, as we go through, here's the wet and strong thunderstorm producing storm working its way into the northeastern United States. Once it moves offshore, it moves over that warm Gulf Stream, and that really causes the low pressure to deepen. Hi, Felton Walker joining. Thank Thank you very much, and I appreciate your appreciation of what we do here. Yeah, thank you for subscribing as well. Cindy, good to have you on board from Plumber. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to the entire nation. Now, check this out. Do you see the purples here? Some areas of freezing and mixed precipitation will be possible. This is going into your New Year's morning at about 7 a.m. East Coast time. The shower and thunderstorm chances are out of here with the cold front streaming off the mid-Atlantic states. Behind it, though, we're setting up shop with a burp of cold air straight out of Canada. That burp of cold air is going to cause northwest flow over the Great Lakes, and you know what that means if you know and live anywhere near the Great Lakes. Lake effect snow will turn on as we go into your New Year's Day. Significant accumulation of snow will be possible. This is round one as it moves up the Atlantic seaboard and off into parts of Nova Scotia. Now, as this system works its way through, the snowfall intensity decreases, but look at the huge aerial coverage of snow there in Canada. Here's the cold air mass diving southward all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. We have a chance of some freezing conditions in the northern counties of our Gulf Coast states. This includes Georgia, South Carolina, as well as Mississippi and Alabama. Beware, that cold air will get even more colder as we head into the deeper week of the new year. Moving in from the Pacific Northwest, a system that will bring heavy snow to the mountains of British Columbia, as well as the northern Rockies of Idaho and Montana, as well as the Cascades of Oregon and down into Washington. It looks like a snowy event there. That system's going to slide southward and work its way into Colorado and Wyoming, bringing a large area of snow as low pressure develops here in the east side or lee of the Rocky Mountains. Look at the pink. You know what that is? That's a freezing rain event. So we'll have areas of accumulating freezing rain and sleet and a severe weather potential as we go from Saturday night, particularly right here. Saturday night, we could see some storms firing off and into our day on Sunday morning. Showers and thunderstorms could be strong in parts of Arkansas. But check this out. This band of very heavy snow concurrent or very close to the track of the low pressure center. So the track of this low is going to be huge in determining who gets heavy snow, who gets sleet, who gets freezing rain, and who gets just a wet rain, right? The watery variety of the precipitation field types. Cold, even colder high pressure starts chunking its way down out of Brandon, Manitoba, Winnipeg, Manitoba, pushing into the northern Dakotas, northern Minnesota, and that's going to be some face-slapping cold weather heading its way to the northern plains. All right, let's take a look at this system as it works its way through. Still snowing in the northern Rockies. Snow spreads and extends through Kansas, Missouri, parts of Iowa, as well as you folks in Kentucky, moving into the Carolinas as we go through particularly North Carolina, Virginia's, and into, wow, the mid-Atlantic states before it exits right off the coast. So this one does not drag up in that northeasterly fashion as it goes through, but it's basically just a west to east track across the lower 48. Meanwhile, behind the system, because of the north winds that this produces as it moves through your area on Monday and into Tuesday, it's going to tug this Arctic air mass and it's diving all the way into Texas. Watch what happens here. If this does pan out the way the models are showing, we could have some snow in Mexico, the Rio Grande Valley, Texas. Look at this, mixed precipitation, southern Texas. There's Brownsville down there, that southern point. It looks ridiculously cold. That could be some freezing precipitation in the hills of East Texas and parts of Louisiana as well. Now, this is the European model. We'll take a quick, fast look at the American model just to show the similarities of this second wave and even the first one. So here goes our first system off, moving through the northeast with bands of heavy snow and lake effect snow. Then we get the development of the second wave making its way here into the Rockies. That develops a Colorado low that moves out. Severe weather potential in the plains, and we will have ice storm potential. As we go north into the cold air pool here, we'll see bands of heavy snow, accumulating sleet, and the time frame on this now is essentially your Sunday morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning, and then all the way into Monday. Here's Monday in the morning with the snow showers moving into the Carolinas and the Virginias, a slightly more southerly track here on this American model. So the track is uncertain, but the probability of an impactful storm making its way through the southern plains of the United States and central plains of the United States appears likely. Here's that real cold burp of air coming out of Manitoba, and out as that makes its way south, here comes the snow potential in Texas, Louisiana, and all the way down into Mexico, whoop, right there, as we go through the middle of next week, the 8th. the 8th of January. That doesn't look fun. So how cold and how much snow? Let's start with round one of the snow potential. We're going to break this apart and look at the New England states here first. So let's do that as we go up into the northeastern United States. And pardon me while I switch the map just a little bit here so we can just focus on the lake effect snow from round one that will be taking place. This is from a model that is more of a global scale model, so we could get some finer detail from some of the convection allowing models, but realistically this will give us a good idea of the track and the intensity of this system as it works its way through. This is by the time we get to your New Year's Day and the second. So by the end of the second day of the new year on Thursday, I'm expecting snowfall potential in the areas of pink to have a very good chance at seeing over 4 inches of snow. Some in these typical areas off of Lake Erie, Pennsylvania. And as far as that goes, western parts of New York and upstate New York, we're talking Syracuse, Buffalo, the typical areas that get that fetch of warm water and moisture off of the Great Lakes as the northwest winds flow over. We could have over a foot of snow for some of you. So western Pennsylvania, all the way through the mountains of West Virginia, all the way up into northern Maryland, and all the way through Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. Snow in places over 4 inches likely for many, with over 6 inches likely for some. Now, that second round does not look to impact you too much, but the lake effect snow with the northwest wind continues right into Monday. Do you see that number there? That says 34 inches. Okay, so we have another lake effect machine setting up for Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, Syracuse, and parts near Toronto and Quebec City as well. So keep that in mind, as it looks like it could be a potential very white start to the new year in the New England states. Now, some on the coastal regions will get bands of heavy rain as a result of this, but much of this snow potential is mainly an impact of the northwest flow over the lakes and not necessarily a storm system. Now, let's look at that second system working its way through the Central Plains. And let's go ahead and start with the region in the Central Plains where this storm rolls out of the Rockies of Colorado and into the Central and Southern Plains. Here we go. So it looks like mountain snow as the low pressure system develops in the Rockies as we go through the first day of the new year. Then it starts working out onto the plains of Iowa with some measurable snow. A good couple of inches seems to be a fair bet as we go through that time frame. Now, this model is showing that the track of the storm here as it develops in Colorado and moves south into Oklahoma will bring the best chance of accumulating snow through parts of Kansas, Nebraska, as well as southern parts of Missouri. So you take the I-70 corridor here from Kansas City through the Columbia, Missouri area on into St. Louis. Rapidly increasing amounts of snow south of there. Some having a great chance at seeing a foot of snow. Brian Davis, weather enthusiast, it's a good day to see you. Thanks for joining me here on Hutch's Weather. So there will be a band of heavy snow potential, but here's what Hutch wants to say as a meteorologist of 30 years of broadcasting here in the Northern Plains. These models are global scale models, so they tend to overblow the aerial coverage of the heavy snow. Keep that in mind. But what does this tell us? It tells Hutch this. In the areas of pink, we have a very good chance at over 4 inches of snow. Some could see some heavier banding set up, and wherever those set up, we have a very good chance at over 6 inches of snow. Colorado style lows are special because they tap into Gulf of Mexico moisture, and they are the most common producers of 1 foot snow events in the northern plains, the central plains, the Rocky Mountains, and the southern plains. So depending on the temperature and whether we get this precipitation as snowflakes, or if it falls as mixed with rain, or if it's freezing rain, you'll see a sharp cutoff in the heavy band of snow as we go south into that warmer pool of air. But it does mean we could have a potential for some ridiculous amounts of ice. So as this system moves its way through, look at southern Missouri here. This model packing up on a solid 1 to 2 feet of snow potentially for parts of southern Missouri. Remember, the track is uncertain. Remember that these amounts are uncertain and vary greatly on the atmosphere's temperature through the depth of the atmosphere below the clouds, not just what we're experiencing on the ground. Now, let's take a look at this as far as the icing potential goes and just show you that this system is going to have the potential for some significant accumulation of ice. Now, what that means is we could definitely have problems with wind and heavy ice accumulating on not only roads, but things like your power lines, your cars, everything. It could really cause a stop to traffic, and it could cause a problem and a possibility for power outages. Today, the models have shifted south with this band of icing, but it is over an inch, maybe 2 inches of ice picked up on the models at this particular juncture. So keep that in mind. As we take a quick snapshot of what the European model says with this track, you can get a feel too that that icing potential is still there, but farther north and into Missouri and Kansas. So this would be the I-70 corridor and points south as we look at the I-29 corridor coming through Kansas City, and it's becoming interstate as through places like Fort Smith, Arkansas, and north of Rogers, Arkansas, rather, and into the Columbia, Missouri area and points south. So keep in mind, as you go basically south of I-70, the chance for ice appears to be real with this particular storm. Drop me a note. Let me know where you're watching from. If you have a specific question, we'll definitely go over it. This is a look at snowfall potential and ice potential in the Central Plains from the storm system. When does it begin? Look at the dates up here. Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon, it turns to icing, and then it lasts all the way into, look at that. So it starts at Saturday afternoon and evening and lasts into Monday morning as it moves off to the mid-Atlantic states. Now, we didn't look at icing in the mid-Atlantic states. Let's take a quick peek at that for you folks, because there will be that as we go through the states of Kentucky and on in towards the Virginias as we get later on into the period. Here it comes. And you can see the ice potential will track just south of the heavy snow bands moving through central parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio River Valley here. And this is over a half of an inch of accumulating ice potential with this system. Jason Cody, thank you for watching from Florida. Hope you are enjoying your warm weather now, because you are looking at some mighty cold air. It's going to head all the way into the central part of the peninsula, and the southern part of the peninsula will also see. And you saw the snow chance that will work its way into the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, with Louisiana and possibly coastal areas of Texas getting freezing rain and snow. Central Mississippi, Felton Walker, good to have you on board. Thanks for letting me know where you're watching from. Now, that's the icing potential with the system. We can turn this over to get a closer look, pardon me, of the snowfall potential as I grab a glass of water. You gotta shuffle them frogs right down the throat there as time tells. Now, as we take a look at the snowfall potential with the system making its way through, this will be round 2, not round 1. It will have the accumulation of that adding on top of it. You can see that the band of snow travels in the northern half of Missouri here on the European model and into central and southern parts of Illinois, Indiana, and southern Ohio. So anywhere from northern Kentucky through all of West Virginia. It looks like a very good potential for over 6 to 8 inches of snow, depending on the exact track of that system. We have heavy fog moving in just south of Tampa right now in the coastal area. Thank you for that. We can go into that a little bit more, Jason Cody, here in just one moment. Now, let's take a look at the Northwestern United States as we go into the new year, because all of these storm systems are going to begin and originate off the Pacific Northwest. They really intensify as they leap over the Rockies, and then they move out into the Central Plains. Here is the snow potential as we look at the western part of the U.S., and we talk about good snowfall potentials in Snoqualmie Pass, in the mountains just off to the east of you folks in Seattle, Tacoma, moving through Portland and off to the east of you, some heavy snow bands there. But look what's going on in West Yellowstone. Look what's going on in Yellowstone and the Tetons here. This is by the time we get to the upcoming weekend, we're talking about significant snow, and it just keeps piling up. Now you're looking at the Wyoming area and the Rockies of Colorado. Perfect for snow skiers out there. Linda Aaron, happy New Year's Eve to you from Bemidji, Minnesota. Tell Paul Bunyan and his good compadre out there, Babe the Blue Ox. Hutch says howdy. Thank you very much. Okay, now as we take a look at the snowfall potential, look at all of Montana. Now where we see the pink areas, there is a good chance of over 4 inches of snow. Keep that in mind. I don't look at these particular numbers that say 10, and I don't pin my forecast on that. As a meteorologist, though, the pink areas do grab my attention. And again, these global models tend to overblow the aerial coverage of the heavy snow. So you can see as we go through the next week, the first week of the new year, the snow is definitely going to be a problem in the Pacific Northwest and parts of the Northern Rockies. If you want to call it a problem, they'll take the moisture. Desert Southwest, this cold air is really going to impact northern parts of the state of Arizona and New Mexico as well. Look at that. Right over here, over me shoulder, there's a chance for some serious accumulation near the Mexican border as we get toward the end of this forecast period. That's too far out to get excited at all as a meteorologist, but I will tell you, I've been watching this closely, and for the last 3 days, these models have shown that chance of snow along the Rio Grande Valley of Texas and Mexico could get some measurable snow. Thank you so much. Okay, now let's take a look at this cold air nonsense that will be moving through. We're going to go back to the national map for this. We'll look at the US of A, and we'll take a quick peek at our friends up in Alaska and Hawaii as well as we celebrate the new year. Now, let's turn attention to temperatures because temperatures are going to be a big deal as we go through. The blue line here is the freezing line. So where you see the blue colors, look out for freezing. And you know where you are if you're in Florida, right? All right, Jason Cody, here you go. Now, we have what's going on, moist air over the peninsula of Florida. That moist air is starting to see some cooler air filter in, and as we cool the air, the moisture that's in the air, it condenses out like hotcakes, and it starts becoming dew and fog in your area. So that's what we're seeing now. Watch the cold air dive south tonight. So this is into your New Year's morning at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Florida time. Now, notice we don't have 30s here. We have 40s in the northern part of the peninsula. That's cold enough. Happy New Year to you as well, Linda. Thank you for joining. Now, as we take a look at the cold air, the freezing air, it's through most of the state of Oklahoma, North Texas, and all the way into the New England states, it's starting to dive in. Meanwhile, the purple blob of nonsensory, face-slapping, tooth-chipping, snotsicle-forming cold is working its way out of Alberta and Saskatoon. That's fun to say. Now, look at this cold air sticking around. Here's the second day of the new year. By the morning, we have that freezing air moving off the mid-Atlantic states. So all of North Carolina, all of the Virginias, South Carolina included, you're going to wake up with some frosty conditions. Notice the northern tier of counties in Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, all of you have a good chance at seeing frost at the very least, if not some freezing temperatures. Florida spared, but some 40s making their way into the central peninsula. Now, as we carry this on, the real blob of cold Arctic nonsense on Hutch's Arctic air tracker here, showing that it's on its way and it's moving out of Saskatchewan. When that happens, as the second system, this is on the heels of the big snow and ice storm that'll be making its way through the central plains. Then the north winds will pull down this cold air mass behind that storm. And here it comes. You see the 30s and 20s moving into Texas as we start the day on the 7th. Look how far south the freezing temperatures go. They're diving into the Gulf like they want to cool off from the hot summer's heat there. And they want to dump in and jump into the Gulf of Mexico. That cold air will be at its peak in the southern states as we go through the morning of the 7th, and it sticks around and shifts out to the east. Look at this ridiculousness. Here's where we get the freezing temperatures right here, right along the border with Mexico and Texas. And the Rio Grande Valley sees some mighty chilly, cold weather continuing through with sub-zero air making its way along the I-70 corridor, believe it or not. So it looks like a cold first 2 weeks of the new year for most of the nation, as a matter of fact. Jason Cody likes the colder weather in Southwest Florida. It's a nice change of pace for sure. You should try it up here where Hutch is at right now. I'm live from Fargo, North Dakota and Moorhead, Minnesota, where we're expecting wind chills on this very night to be between 5 below and 25 below. That's where if you have a tear forming in the corner of your eye, it might freeze on the way down your face. And if you have breath forming on your mustache, why I stay cleanly shaven, then it turns into snotsicles right there. It's really kind of fun. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, Jason Cody, but that's what we're preparing to deal with up here in the Northern Plains. This cold spell could be prolonged, though, in the deep south. And really, it's something to be taken seriously on the heels of what could be an ice storm that could impact power in parts of Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, all the way out into the Virginias. where that ice track is going to be, it's going to be very impactful because it's followed up with over a week of very cold weather that these areas are not used to. So now is the time to prepare, and now is the time to plan. And if there's anything in this broadcast that's important, it's so important for you to think about what you need to do to stay warm, even if your house doesn't have heat. Get to that interior room, keep that room warm. But you want to maybe open up your cupboards to outside walls that may have sinks there so that you don't have freezing water lines. If you do happen to be without power in some of these states, you do not want to bring the barbecue in and burn it inside the house to stay warm, because that creates dangerous carbon monoxide gas. And unfortunately, in long cold stretches in the deep south like this, we get stories of folks trying to do that. Help a neighbor. Check on them. Ask them if they need help knowing how to stay warm, because you can make a big difference. You're going to want to, in the deep south, disconnect garden hoses from your home so the freezing of the water doesn't work its way up your faucet outside and into the inside of your house. So those are some tips that we do secondhand nature here in the northern plains when it gets to the cold season. But down south, you want to make sure that you're taking care of it. All right, that is a look at your weather. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. It's a pleasure. If this is the first time you're watching, I'd really love to have you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. You can also check out more information about me by heading up to my website, hutchesweather.com. You can upload photos from your weather through the new year and beyond right on my website and share with all of us in Hutch's Weather community here what you're seeing in your part of the country. You're welcome anytime. Follow me right here on Facebook by clicking the follow button. That helps me out a great deal. Subscribe on YouTube. For now, I want you to have yourself a very, very, very safe new year. Stay warm out there. It's going to be a cold one for sure. And let me know what you're seeing in the weather. Again, cold air diving south and sticking around in the northern plains. If you watch my previous video, you're going to see it's going to last the entirety of the month of January. And it's going to be a long, cold month here in most of the northern plains. And for much of the eastern 2/3 of the United States, a much colder than average month ahead. Thanks so much. Stay safe. Happy New Year to you and yours, and